Hello, Acadia. Hello, Lucy. I hope both of you are listening to this at some point. I have a great story for you today. It is the story of Pocahontas. And this is not just a fairy tale. Pocahontas was a woman who actually existed. That's her. That's Pocahontas right there. And she was someone who was an American Indian, were a Native American. Those were the people who were here in America before the European settlers arrived. And you can see she's a little bit darker skinned. That's because the Native Americans originally came over from Asia, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 or a long number of years ago. So they're a little bit darker skinned, like Grandma maybe, because they're from Asia originally. So Pocahontas was a real woman, and she married this European named John Smith, and this is a story of how they met. And you have a personal connection. Did you know that we have Native American ancestry? That means that some of our ancestors were Native Americans. And as it turns out, the particular tribe that Pocahontas is from is called the Powhatan tribe. It's not confirmed, but probably some of our ancestors were from that very tribe. So you're probably related to Pocahontas. She's probably like a great, 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 great aunt or a distant cousin of yours. So this is the Disney book about Pocahontas. So some of it's made up. They don't know what actually she said to him or he said to her. So some of it is a little bit made up. But the basic story of Pocahontas and John Smith meeting and getting married is a true story. I don't know about the raccoon. I don't know if in history there was actually a little raccoon, but probably could have been. Here we go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put, this is a big, thick book. Look at this. Look at all these pages. And there's a lot of great pictures and a lot of words. We'll see how much of this I can do. Maybe I can put it on one video. If not, I'll do 2 videos. There's a raccoon. Here we go. So this takes place about 600 years ago. Long, long time ago. Even before your mommy and daddy were born. Even before granddaddy was born. Okay. The dock around the proud ship Susan Constant was buzzing with activity, for this was the day she and her hardy crew of settlers would sail on a dangerous expedition from London, that's in England, to the New World. 3 crew members, Lon, Ben, and Thomas, bid their families tearful farewells before boarding the ship. Another, John Smith, stood alone on the deck, impatient for the ship to be on its way. The last person to appear was John Ratliff. Oh, he looks like a bad guy. The ruthless and ambitious governor of the New World. In his polished leather boots, he strode onto the boat. Close behind the haughty Ratcliffe was his enthusiastic and ever-cheerful manservant Wiggins. That would be this guy. Wiggins, carrying Ratcliffe's snooty and spoiled pug dog, Percy. Yeah, that little pug dog does look snooty. Soon, the Susan Constant, that's the name of the boat. See, they're using the real name of the ship. That was an actual ship that sailed. Soon, the Susan Constant had set sail and was on its way. Back in those days, it took maybe a couple of months for a boat or a ship to get from Europe to America. But that's what they're doing. They're sailing. Here we go. They're on the boat. After many months at sea, the ship was caught in a terrible storm. One huge wave crashed over the deck, and John Smith's friend Thomas was unable to hold on. He was swept overboard like a tiny doll. "Hang on, Thomas," Smith called into the howling wind. And as the rest of the crew on deck watched, frozen in horror, the brave John Smith quickly secured a rope to his waist and jumped in the turbulent water. Moments later, he and Thomas were hauled to safety. Ooh, that looks scary. Ooh, that's the bad guy, Ratcliffe. Hearing the commotion, Ratcliffe appeared on deck. "Don't lose heart, men," he told them. "It won't be long before we reach the New World, and remember what awaits us there. Freedom, prosperity, and nothing, not even a band of bloodthirsty Indians, shall stand in our way." With that, Ratcliffe returned to his cabin. See, he describes the Indians as bloodthirsty because sometimes the Europeans would fight with the Indians and they didn't like them. "Just leave the Indians to me," John Smith smiled. "Do you think they'll give us much trouble?" Lon asked. "Not as much trouble as Smith will give them," declared Ben. So they're all being very boastful about how they're going to take care of the Indians. And who are these people? They're Indians. Sometimes they may prefer to be called Native Americans. I'll tell you the story someday why they're called Indians, but it's based on a big mistake. They're not actually from India. You probably know that the American Indians were not actually from India. That's a mistake. They're actually the native peoples of America. Okay, here we go. Across the Atlantic, unaware that the Susan Constant was making her way toward them, a party of Indian warriors was returning home from battle. At the tribal village, the learned medicine man Kikata and the rest of the tribe greeted noble Powhatan. See, remember I told you they're from the Powhatan tribe and their leader is called Powhatan. The rest of the tribe greeted noble Powhatan, their leader, and Kokum, their bravest young warrior. See, those were actual people that existed. Powhatan anxiously scanned the welcoming throng for his beloved daughter. Okay, so he's looking around, and because his beloved daughter is Pocahontas. So he gets back from battle, and it doesn't say who they were fighting. They might have been fighting other Indians, or they might have been fighting the Europeans. We don't know. Maybe we'll find out. So he gets back, and he looks for Pocahontas, and there she is. By the way, she's a very attractive young woman. In real life, she didn't look exactly like that. There are engravings of what Pocahontas actually looked like, and she looked a little bit different from that, but she was a nice young woman. Didn't have long flowing hair like that, I don't think. As usual, she kept it short. As usual, Pocahontas was off on an adventure with her two mismatched sidekicks, Meeko, the inquisitive raccoon. There we go. There's Meeko. That's a raccoon. I don't think Meeko actually existed. Maybe there was some raccoon, but probably not one named Meeko. And a protective hummingbird named Flit. Graceful and quick, the free-spirited young woman stood atop her favorite cliff beside the waterfall. As she gazed out over the breathtaking landscape, her best friend, Nakoma, called to her from a canoe below. "Come down here, Pocahontas. Your father is back." Pocahontas leapt off the cliff to join her friend, with a startled Meeko and unhappy Flit tumbling after her. Okay. Off she goes. She wants to greet her father, who's come back from the battles. There they go. That's Nakoma. That's Pocahontas' friend. That's a raccoon in front. Oh, some turtles. Look at that. Pocahontas entered the pool at the base of the waterfall with barely a splash and disappeared under the canoe. Okay, so her friend was in the canoe. Pocahontas jumped in the water. With one playful shove, she overturned the boat, Nakoma and all. Laughing, the two girls righted the canoe and climbed in. "What were you doing up there?" Nakoma asked. thinking about that dream again. I know it means something. I just don't know what, Pocahontas said. Maybe you should ask your father about it, Nakoma suggested. You're right, Pocahontas told her friend. Let's go. So Pocahontas is having some dream that she doesn't understand. Oh, I love all these pictures. There we are. There's Pocahontas. There's her father, Powhatan. The warriors, little fat chubby boy there. As soon as she and Powhatan were reunited, Pocahontas told her father about her dream, which told her something exciting was about to happen. A smile crept across her father's face. Something exciting is about to happen, he said. Kokum has asked to seek your hand in marriage. Oh, big, strong-looking guy. Pocahontas couldn't believe her ears. Though Kokum was a mighty warrior, he was too serious and certainly not someone Pocahontas pictured herself married to. Oh, boy. She wants somebody who's more playful, I guess. Uh-oh. But father, Pocahontas protested, I think my dream is pointing me down another path. In reply, Powhatan gave his daughter the necklace her mother had worn at their wedding many years before. As he placed it around her neck, he told her, even the wild mountain stream must someday join the big steady river. That sounds very prophetic. Even the wild mountain stream must someday join the big steady river. So she's been a young, playful girl, but now she needs to join the big steady river. Later, Pocahontas told Meeko the raccoon, he wants me to be steady as the river, but to me, it's not steady at all. It's always moving, and around each bend in the river is something new and exciting. She just wants to live and see things and enjoy the world. Deep in thought, Pocahontas went to a very special glade in the forest inhabited by Grandmother Willow, a magical and wise tree. Magical and wise tree. The Indian maiden told her enchanted friend about her dream. Okay, this is the dream. I am running through the woods, began Pocahontas, and then right there in front of me is an arrow. It spins faster and faster until suddenly it stops. Then I wake up. What does it mean, Grandmother Willow? So she's talking to the tree. Well, it seems to me this spinning arrow is pointing you down your path, the old tree replied. But what is my path? How am I ever going to find it? Continued Pocahontas. Your mother asked me the very same question. I told her to listen, Grandmother Willow went on. All around you are spirits, child. They live in the earth, the water, the sky. If you listen, they will guide you. The spirits, they will guide you down the correct path where the arrow is pointing. Just then, a breeze began to blow, picking up speed. Pocahontas climbed high into Grandmother Willow's branches, trying to hear what the wind might be telling her. As she looked out over the trees, she saw clouds billowing in the distance, strange white clouds. See, she's seeing the sails and she thinks they're clouds. Okay, now we're back on, this is the boat again. See, there's John Smith and Ratcliffe. And there's Ratcliffe's mean dog. Back on board the Susan Constant, the crew was ready to land, and Ratcliffe gave John Smith special instructions. I'm counting on you to make sure that any Indians we find won't disrupt our mission, Ratcliffe told him. "Don't worry, sir," Smith replied as he ruffled Percy's fur. "If they're anything like the ones I've fought before, it's nothing I can't handle." Okay, he's saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of those nasty Indians." Little does he know that Pocahontas is one of the nasty Indians. See, he doesn't really know the Indians. He just has fought them before, but he doesn't know them as people. As the ship was eased into the shore, Pocahontas was climbing a rock face not far from the water's edge. Though she knew the forest and the waters of her home well, this was a sight she had never before seen. There, much closer now, were the strange clouds she had seen earlier. They were really the sails of the Susan Constant, flapping in the breeze. Wow, what a strange sight this might be. She'd never seen a big ship like that with sails. They only had canoes with the Indian tribe. Ooh, boy. What's going to happen next? Okay. The settlers struggled to pull the ship in and drop anchor, but one crew member was missing. John Smith was already on shore, climbing a tall tree to get a better look at the magnificent land. As he climbed, he got closer to Pocahontas' hiding place on the cliff. Though Flit was worried about the stranger's approach, Meeko couldn't wait to meet him. Before Pocahontas could stop him, the mischievous little raccoon darted out into view. Okay, so the little raccoon's going to go say hi to John Smith. "Well," so there he is. "Well, you're a strange-looking fellow," Meeko said as he held out a biscuit. John Smith said as he held out a biscuit to Meeko. As Meeko gobbled down the treat, he looked back triumphantly to where Pocahontas and Flit were hidden. Smith was just about to investigate when Flit, that's the little bird, burst out of the bushes, zipping to and fro to distract the stranger. Just then a bugle sounded from below, calling Smith back to the ship. Pocahontas remained undiscovered, at least for now, so he doesn't actually see Pocahontas. Here's Meeko getting his biscuit. Smith arrived just in time to watch Ratcliffe, the bad dude, ceremoniously plant the British flag on the shore. See, British and England is all the same thing. And they're from England or from Britain, and so they're planting the British flag. Secretly, Ratcliffe didn't care much about King James and the glory of his native England. What he did care about were the gold and other riches his new land had to offer. Just to make sure that nothing would get in his way, Ratcliffe sent Smith out to scout the forest for Indians. Oh, what are they going to do? They think they're just going to dig up the gold? They're actually not going to find very much gold. There wasn't much gold there. The Indian village council was in a heated discussion. The party of warriors had seen the pale settlers, and now Powhatan asked Kakata to reveal what their arrival meant. So Kakata is kind of like the wizard, and he's going to try to tell them what the arrival means. The medicine man, that's Kakata, threw a handful of powder into the fire. The smoke that rose from the flames first took the shape of armored warriors with weapons spouting fire and thunder. Then they changed into hungry wolves. That sounds like a bad omen. Powhatan was cautious. "Take some men to the river to observe these white visitors. Let us hope they do not intend to stay," he told Kukum. So they're going to go check it out and see if they can figure out what these people are up to. As he scouted further into the forest, John Smith sensed that he was not alone. Thinking he had gone, Pocahontas crept down from her hiding place as Smith cautiously edged closer to a nearby waterfall. Unable to see the figure on the opposite side of the cascading water, Smith jumped through the falls with his gun aimed directly at her. The startled pair stared at each other for a long moment, and in that lingering moment, their two souls were touched. Smith reached out his hand to the lovely young woman before him. "No, wait, please," he called out as Pocahontas darted away. See, Pocahontas is a little bit afraid of this strange-looking person. So she starts to run away. Smith trailed Pocahontas back to the river. "It's all right. I'm not going to hurt you," he assured her as she climbed into her canoe. "I'm John Smith. What is your name?" As Smith held out his hand, a light breeze swirled around them, and Pocahontas remembered what Grandmother Willow had told her, to listen with her heart to all the voices around her. She allowed the pale stranger to help her out of the canoe, and when they touched, neither one wanted to let go. See, he's speaking to her in English, but she probably can't understand English. There's no reason why she would know that language, so it's kind of hard for them to communicate. But he helps her out of the canoe that she was about to get into, and they can just feel some special connection between the two of them. Look at this. That's the brave warrior. Hidden in the bushes around the settlers' camp, Powhatan's warriors watched as the settlers dug up the land. "We must find gold," Ratcliffe ordered. He took one bite of a juicy drumstick and tossed it into the bushes. Percy saw the drumstick land near one of the Indians. His startled yelp sent the settlers scurrying for their guns. In the confrontation that followed, a brave warrior, Namontack, was shot in the leg. Okay, so they have a little contact and a little skirmish, and one of the settlers shoots an Indian in the leg. Ugh, they're getting off to a bad start. There's the Indian that got shot. The chief looked at the wounded Namontack, and his anger grew. He instructed Cocoon to gather warriors from every village to fight the new enemy. Powhatan stepped outside and addressed the villagers. "These white men are dangerous," he said. "No one is to go near them." There's the Indian doctor, and poor Namontack's been shot in the leg somewhere. At the river, Pocahontas and John Smith talked, slowly getting to know each other. It's slow because they don't really speak the same language, but they sort of pretend that they can understand each other. Miko reached into Smith's pouch and snatched his compass, thinking it was a biscuit. So Miko's looking through the pouch. He's looking for another biscuit, but he finds a compass. That tells you what direction you're going. As they spoke, Pocahontas shared some of her people's ways with Smith. She showed him the Indian gestures for hello and then goodbye. "Let's stick with hello," Smith told her. So they're communicating in a very basic way, I guess. And now that we're kind of pretending they can understand each other a little bit more as the story progresses. As Smith spoke of London, Pocahontas realized that these settlers meant to recreate their old world here among her people. "There is so much we can teach you," concluded Smith. "We've improved the lives of savages all over the world." So he's calling them savages, which he probably isn't going to like very much. Pocahontas glared. "Savages?" John Smith fumbled for the right words. Not that you're a savage, just my people," said Pocahontas. Well, what I actually meant, Smith concluded feebly, is uncivilized. What you mean is not like you, Pocahontas said coolly. So he's not intentionally trying to be insulting, but he's really insulting her people, calling them savages and uncivilized. See, he's not respecting their culture. Before he could protest, Pocahontas took Smith by the hand and led him through the forest. As they ran through the trees, Pocahontas showed him how all parts of nature, animals, plants, the wind, the clouds, even people, were alive and connected to each other. Her words and the importance of what she showed him so touched his heart that Smith was changed. He could see the colors of the wind that Pocahontas saw and feel what Pocahontas felt. Drums echoing through the forest ended their magical time together. So now they hear drums coming. So Pocahontas knows that means trouble. Something's wrong at the village, Pocahontas said as she ran for home before Smith could say another word. See, these are all the things that Pocahontas can see in the wind that she tells John Smith about. He becomes enchanted also. Later on at the settlement, Ratcliffe was in a rage since his men had found no gold. He was sure the Indians had it all. All Smith could think about was Pocahontas. While Ratcliffe fretted, that means he worried, the always hungry Miko sneaked into the tent to steal food from Percy's elaborate dinner plate. Percy spotted him, and the two dashed out of the settlement, past the palisade wall the men were building to protect them from the natives. Oh man, see, Miko stole some of the little dog's food, and the little dog Percy is not very happy about that. So there goes Miko with some of the dog's food. The Indian warriors were also erecting a palisade wall to protect their village from the settlers. Powhatan warned Pocahontas to stay inside the wall. Then he gazed fondly at his daughter and said, "When I see you wear that necklace, you look just like your mother." "I wish she was here," Pocahontas answered. "But she still is with us," replied her father. "Whenever the wind moves through the trees, I feel her presence." Later, as Pocahontas and Nakoma gathered corn nearby, John Smith emerged from the woods. So that's Nakoma, and there's Pocahontas, and now Nakoma is going to know the secret. "Please don't say anything," Pocahontas begged Nakoma as she took Smith's hands and disappeared into the forest. She's disappearing into the forest and asking her friend to keep quiet about it. And there they are in the forest. See, she's been gathering corn. She's got her trusty friend Miko there. Soon, the two arrived at the enchanted glade. "To think, we came all this way just to dig it up for gold," Smith said. "What is gold?" Pocahontas asked. After Smith explained, Pocahontas told him the startling truth. There was plenty of golden corn to eat, but no gold. There's not gold in Virginia. The story takes place in Virginia. You've actually been to Virginia, girls. You've even been to an area that's pretty close to where this happened in Virginia. You probably don't remember. At least I think you've been to Virginia. At least you've been to North Carolina, and you had to go through Virginia to get there, and maybe you flew over it. So she says there's golden corn to eat, but there's no gold here. Suddenly, they heard a voice, and Grandmother Willow revealed herself in the bark of the old tree. Smith was startled. "Hello, John Smith," Grandmother Willow said. "Pocahontas, that tree is talking to me," said the shaken John Smith. "Don't be frightened, young man," the old tree quipped. My bark is worse than my bite. Ha, ha, ha. Very funny. Bark, like tree bark, is worse than her bite. Within minutes, Smith and Grandmother Willow were chatting like old friends, and Pocahontas knew that Grandmother Willow approved of her new friend. Ooh, there's some settlers. They look kind of uncouth. Their conversation was interrupted by a voice. "Smith, where are you, mate?" cried Ben as he and Lon came through the forest. Pocahontas and Smith ducked behind Grandmother Willow. "This place gives me the creeps," said Lon. "Savages could be hiding anywhere." They were about to spot Smith when Grandmother Willow gently raised up one of her roots and tripped Lon, sending the two Englishmen scurrying away in fear. John Smith prepared to return to the camp. "Meet me tonight, right here," said Smith. "I'll be waiting," Pocahontas said, staring deeply into his eyes. It's love, love. "I should stay in the village and forget about him," Pocahontas said to Grandmother Willow. "But still, something inside is telling me it's the right thing." "Perhaps it's your dream," Grandmother Willow suggested. "My dream," Pocahontas cried. "Do you think he's the one the spinning arrow was pointing to?" Grandmother Willow smiled. "Maybe you found your path, child." Pocahontas thought about these words as she made her way home. "Pocahontas," Cocoon said as he looked over the warriors assembled in the village. "Look at them. Now we have enough warriors to destroy those white demons." Horrified by his words, Pocahontas found Powhatan and begged him to talk to the settlers instead of fighting. "They do not want to talk," answered her father. "But if one of them did want to talk, you would listen to him, wouldn't you?" she asked. "Of course," Powhatan answered impatiently, "but it's not that simple. Please stay here where it's safe. I must go and speak to the War Council." They're preparing for war. Pocahontas, she has an idea. Maybe they'll talk to John Smith and then there might not be a war. When Smith arrived at the settlement, Ratcliffe was waiting. "Prepare the men for battle," he ordered. "We are going to eliminate these savages once and for all. Then the gold will be ours for the taking." Smith tried to convince Ratcliffe there was no gold. He even brought back an ear of corn, explaining that the Indians had food that would make a welcome change from biscuits and gruel. But Ratcliffe would hear none of it. "Anyone who so much looks at an Indian without killing him on sight will be tried for treason and hanged," he declared. So he says, "We're going to kill all those Indians and take their gold," which doesn't actually exist. That night, as Pocahontas crept through the village on her way to meet Smith, Nakoma surprised her at the palisades wall. "Pocahontas," cried Nakoma, "you can't go to him. He's one of them. You're turning your back on your own people." That's Nakoma, her friend, is saying, don't talk to that guy. He's one of the bad people who are trying to kill the Indians. "I'm trying to help my people," she said, as she slipped into the woods. But she could see that her friend did not understand. Nakoma was worried for Pocahontas' safety, so she told Cocoon where Pocahontas had gone. Cocoon, that's the brave warrior that Pocahontas is supposed to marry her. So Nakoma rats her out. She tells him where she had gone because she's worried about her. This is not going to work out well. Wow, look at this. There we go. While their people prepared for battle, Smith and Pocahontas arrived at the enchanted glade. "Maybe it's not too late to stop this," said Pocahontas. "Come with me and talk to my father." Suddenly, Percy raced into the glade, still looking for Meeko. The two chased each other around the glade as Smith and Pocahontas tried to separate them. The dog and the raccoon are chasing each other. Once two sides want to fight, nothing can stop them, Smith said sadly. Just then, Grandmother Willow dipped one of her branches into the water. Look, the ripples, she said to Smith, go small at first, but then they grow large. Someone has to start them. The ripples, like when you put a rock in a pond and the waves go out from the ripples. You have to first start with somebody putting their finger in the pond to create ripples that go out. Oh my gosh, there's a cocoon. Look at this action. Look at this. Smith understood Grandmother Willow. All right, let's go talk to your father, he said. Okay, so John Smith said, okay, we'll go talk to the king of the Indians, to the chief, to see about peace. Pocahontas threw her arms around him in excitement, and the two shared a loving kiss. At that moment, Cocoon emerged from the forest. He pulled the couple apart and leapt at Smith. They wrestled for control of Cocoon's knife. Suddenly, Thomas appeared out of the bushes to see Cocoon with his dagger poised above Smith's body. Thomas fired his musket, fatally wounding the brave warrior. As Cocoon fell, his hand caught on the necklace Pocahontas was to wear at their wedding, and it fell to the ground near his lifeless body. Oh, so here they're fighting over the knife, and then Thomas appears. He shoots the Indian. The Indian falls dead, but he grabs the necklace as he's falling, and it falls to the ground. Thomas, get out of here, yelled Smith as a party of warriors descended on them. Pocahontas watched in disbelief as Smith was dragged away, accused of being Cocoon's murderer. Back at the village, Powhatan condemned Smith to die at sunrise the next day. When Pocahontas protested, her father's words were harsh. Because of your foolishness, Cocoon is dead, he told her. You have shamed your father. Oh, no. Brought dishonor and shame to the family. Look at that picture, poor Smith. They're going to kill him at sunrise. Wow. There's only, well, we got about maybe 10 minutes left. There he is. He's tied up, waiting for death at sunrise. Smith was placed in a hut where he had to remain alone until morning. Nakuma and Pocahontas told the guards that Pocahontas wanted to look at the man who had killed Cocoon. It would have been better had we never met, she said sadly. Then none of this would have ever happened. I'd rather die tomorrow than live 100 years without knowing you, protested Smith. I can't leave you, whispered Pocahontas. You never will, Smith replied. No matter what happens, I'll be with you forever. Sharing your last moments together, it looks like. But we'll see. Ratcliffe. Meanwhile, Thomas raced back to the settlement as fast as his legs would carry him. The savages, he screamed as he reached the clearing. They've captured Smith. You see, said Ratcliffe. Smith tried to befriend them, and look what they've done to him. I say it's time to kill them all and rescue our courageous comrade. Pocahontas drifted into the enchanted grave. Her head hung in sadness. Just then, Miko handed her John Smith's compass. Okay, see, Miko had stolen the compass before. He was hoping it might be something to eat, but it wasn't. As she took it, something amazing happened. Its arrow was spinning, and she knew it was the sign from her dream. See, a compass has a little arrow on it that always points north. That's how it works. So now she sees the compass and the arrow, and it connects her to her dream. I have to go back, she said excitedly. Suddenly, the arrow stopped. Pocahontas looked where it pointed and saw the morning light. The sunrise. It's too late. What can I do? Let the spirits of the earth guide you, urged Grandmother Willow. So it's sunrise now. and it's time to carry out the sentence. Oh, there's poor John Smith. He's up on a rock, and it looks like an Indian's about to knock him in the head. The settlers, armed and ready for war with the Indians, marched through the forest like an angry army. At the same time, the Indians moved in a fateful procession toward the execution site. They could not know that the settlers were nearing the cliff. It seemed that nothing could stop these two enemies from a violent clash. Atop the cliff, the warriors placed Smith's head on a large stone slab. Just as Powhatan raised his club to deliver the fatal blow, the settlers burst through the forest, ready to open fire. Okay, hang on there. I got to pause just a minute and take off my long sleeve shirt, because I'm starting to get hot just from all the excitement of reading this story. So I'll be back to my reading in just a second here. Okay, here we go. I got my long sleeve shirt off now. See, I got my short sleeves are on. Okay, atop the cliff. Okay, I'll back up a sentence or two just to remind us of where we are. So there's Powhatan. He's getting ready to kill John Smith. Here come the settlers. Atop the cliff, the warriors placed John Smith's head on a large stone slab. Just as Powhatan raised his club to deliver the fatal blow, the settlers burst through the woods, ready to open fire. Suddenly, Pocahontas appeared and threw herself over Smith. "No," she shouted, "if you kill him, you'll have to kill me too. Look around you. This is where the path of hatred has brought us." As everyone stared in stunned silence, Pocahontas said, "You have the power to change that, Father." The wind swirled, and Powhatan felt the spirit of Pocahontas' mother, guiding him to hear with his heart and heed the wisdom of his daughter's words. "Pocahontas speaks with courage and understanding," he said. "From this day forward, there will be no more killing. Let us be guided instead to a place of peace." See what Ratcliffe says about that. The Indian warriors put down their weapons uncertainly. "Now's our chance, men," yelled Ratcliffe. "Fire!" But the settlers finally understood the governor's greed, and one by one they lowered their muskets. Ratcliffe desperately grabbed a gun and fired at Powhatan. The brave John Smith threw himself in front of the chief and knocked Powhatan out of the way. But the bullet meant for the Indian caught Smith instead. The settlers were enraged. "Get him!" shouted Ben as he, Lon, and Thomas lunged at Ratcliffe. The governor was quickly put in chains and taken back to the ship. Okay, so they overthrew the nasty governor. I wonder what they did with the dog. Maybe the dog is going to be friends with Nico. We'll see. John Smith lay on a stretcher as the Susan Constant prepared to sail for England. Okay, so John Smith got hurt because the bullet that was aimed at the chief hit John Smith instead. Pocahontas appeared at the edge of the clearing. Behind her were Powhatan, Nakoma, and the rest of the village, bearing blankets and corn for the settlers. So they're going to give the settlers corn and blankets to help them, because now they're at peace. Thomas approached Powhatan. "Going back is his only chance. He'll die if he stays here," he told her. Pocahontas, I guess they figured he needs to get back to England so he could get surgeons from England to help him, which maybe that's the case, I don't know. Pocahontas knelt by Smith's side. "Here," she said, handing him a small pouch. "It's from Grandmother Willow's bark. It will help with the pain." Powhatan approached and placed his cloak over Smith's body. "You are always welcome among our people. Thank you, my brother," he said softly. Just then, Meeko, Flit, and Percy arrived. They carried with them her mother's necklace, which they had lovingly placed around Pocahontas' neck. Smith looked up at Pocahontas. Come with me, he asked. So they brought the necklace back. See, Flit, Percy, and Miko brought the necklace back, and she put it around her neck. That's the wedding necklace from her mother. So maybe that means they can get married now because they have the necklace back. So he says, come to England with me. Pocahontas turned to her father. You must choose your own path, he said. But as Pocahontas watched the Indians sharing baskets of food with the hungry settlers in the first signs of peace between them, she knew what her path must be. Pocahontas, the fighting stopped because of you. If you leave, Nakoma begged. Her tears told John Smith better than her words ever could what Pocahontas had decided. She would stay and help forge a bond between her people and the settlers. Then I'll stay with you, Smith whispered. No, you have to go back, Pocahontas answered. No matter what happens, I will always be with you forever. Then Pocahontas leaned down and the two gently shared their last kiss. Pocahontas watched as John Smith was placed into the dinghy and rowed away. Choking back the tears, Pocahontas placed her head on Powhatan's shoulder as he tried to comfort her. Smith was lifted into the ship, and the sails of the Susan Constant unfurled in the breeze. Pocahontas broke away from her father's embrace and disappeared into the forest. So he's going back on the ship, and she decided she needs to stay to make sure that peace continues between the Indians and the settlers. Steadfast Pocahontas stood atop her favorite cliff, the wind swirling around her. She watched as that same wind carried the ship that bore John Smith down the river and out into the open sea. The end. Wow, that was a strange ending. In real life, they actually got married, and she went to England with them. But they changed the ending for this story. But it wasn't until many years later. So maybe this is just the first part of the story. What happened was he came back, and then they got married, and then she did go to England with him. So maybe there'll be part 2, and you can read that. But as of the end of this story, he goes back to England. She stays to protect her people and to ensure that peace continues. Oh, that was a good story. Pocahontas. I'm glad I could read this to you, and I'll get another book for you next time. Bye-bye, girls.